In every shadow, there's a story the world tried to forget. In every silence, a scream that never stopped echoing. These are the truths buried in cold archives and blood-stained snow. Welcome to the Dread Diaries, where fear is always real. Like, comment, and remember, if someone knocks tonight, don't open the door. The recording begins with a woman whispering into her phone, her voice trembling so violently it sounds warped. A streetlight flickers behind her, spilling enough light to show the panic in her eyes. She keeps glancing over her shoulder, as if waiting for something to reappear. Her breath is uneven. Her hands shake. And then, abruptly, the clip ends. No explanation. No context. Just fear. For the last decade, these clips have become more common. Not staged. Not cinematic. Not dressed up for attention. Real people. Real doorbell footage. Real late-night knocks from children who never look quite human. Tonight's investigation begins not with a sighting, but with the aftermath of one. It happened outside a townhome in Lubbock, Texas. A quiet neighborhood, well-lit, the kind where small problems get posted on Facebook groups before anyone calls the police. Around 2:13 a.m., a resident named Michael Ramirez woke up to a repetitive tapping, not loud enough to break glass, not soft enough to ignore. A rhythm too precise for branches, too slow for an animal. When he checked his doorbell camera, the feed was dark. Not broken, just dark, as if something stood directly in front of the lens. Michael considered opening the door. He didn't. Minutes later, the camera flickered back to life. And in a single frame, one he didn't notice until the next morning, something pale stood at the edge of the yard. Short. Thin. Clothes too clean for a child wandering around before dawn. And its head was tilted, as if listening for movement inside the house. The eyes were the worst, black, reflective, like two pits swallowing the light. But when police arrived, whatever had been there was gone. No footprints. No smudges. No sign anyone had come to the door at all. The only evidence was Michael himself, shaking, sleepless, and adamant that the thing outside wasn't a regular kid. Cases like this aren't isolated. They're increasing. Before Texas, there was Manchester, England, a security guard who encountered two children standing outside a corporate building at 4 a.m., asking in flat voices to be let inside. He said their eyes looked wrong. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. Before England, there was a couple in Washington state who found a child standing on their porch, motionless. When they spoke to him, he didn't answer. When they turned away for just a moment, he vanished. But the porch camera recorded a faint shadow slipping out of frame on all fours, moving faster than the child had ever moved while standing. Police called it unidentifiable behavior likely caused by distortions, insects, or low light. But the couple insisted what they saw was neither glitch nor animal. And the trail goes even further back. Small towns, rural highways, motels, gas stations. Reports of pale children with darkened eyes asking for entry. The stories always follow the same structure: a knock, a request, a sense of dread that doesn't have a clear source. Some witnesses describe the same detail: something in the voice, a flatness, a lack of emotion, a cadence that doesn't match the body it comes from, as if words are being repeated, not spoken. Others describe the silence that follows, a kind you feel in your stomach. Animals go still. Air feels heavier. Neighborhoods that are normally full of sound become empty, like everything is waiting. For many, the fear doesn't start when they see these children. It starts when they realize the children shouldn't be there. Tonight's primary investigation centers around a location in rural Virginia, where a woman named Danielle reported knocks on her farmhouse door 3 nights in a row. She lived far from the nearest road. No neighbors. No streetlights. Just forest. Night 1, 3 knocks. Slow. Even. Night 2, the same. But this time she heard voices, 2 children speaking in overlapping whispers, asking to be allowed inside because they were lost. Night 3, no knocks. Instead, she found her motion sensor light on, triggered by something standing beneath it. Her footage, the reason this case spread online, shows two small silhouettes holding hands. The faces are blurred, either by light bloom or by movement, but the shapes are unmistakably childlike. They stand perfectly still. Too still. And then, simultaneously, both heads turn directly toward the camera. The clip ends there, corrupted. Not deleted. Not edited. Corrupted. When investigators arrived the next morning, the children were gone. But the ground beneath the light showed shallow depressions, not footprints, more like knees and hands had pressed into the soil instead of feet. Danielle doesn't live there anymore. As we move deeper into the files, something else becomes clear. These sightings cluster around certain patterns. Remote areas. Late-night hours. Houses with minimal outside lighting. And almost always, witnesses describe the same overwhelming sensation. A pressure in the chest, a feeling of being watched before they even check the door. Some researchers dismiss these encounters as misidentified night wanderers or distressed children. Others believe they're part of a viral hoax. But there is one detail that keeps appearing. The children never enter unless the person opens the door. Every reported case suggests the same thing, they ask. They never force their way inside. And those who refuse to let them in describe the same ending: silence, followed by the immediate irrational sense that something is waiting just beyond the dark. As we continue our investigation, we uncover a new piece of footage, one never released to the public. It's grainy. Low resolution. Likely from an older camera. But the audio is intact. A man whispers, "Why are your eyes like that?" A child's voice replies, "Please let us in." Followed by something else. Not words, not movement, but a sound like a long, slow inhale. Then the clip cuts off. No one knows what happened after. But what we do know is that the camera inside the man's home recorded his front door slowly opening 5 minutes later. Not from the outside. From the inside. By the time the investigation takes us to rural Arkansas, the case has already shifted from unusual to something far more unsettling. Not because the sightings increased, but because the evidence that once existed is beginning to vanish. Clips that circulated for years suddenly show errors, blank frames, or corrupted timestamps. Witnesses who once shared their footage now refuse to talk at all, claiming they don't want them coming back. Several even report strangers showing up at their homes afterward, asking questions that don't match any official agency. Men in plain clothes. No IDs. No vehicles in sight. No explanations for how they knew about the sightings. But tonight, we're not dealing with men. We're dealing with silence. Our first case begins with a teenager named Grayson, who lived in a quiet suburban cul-de-sac. His home was surrounded by families, trimmed lawns, porch lights, nothing that remotely suggested danger. Yet his Ring camera captured something subtle, something easily ignored if you weren't looking for it. At exactly 3:14 a.m., the motion alert triggered. There was no one at the door. No animal. No wind. Just the faint outline of something low to the ground slipping past the edge of the frame. A pale limb. Long smooth. Almost too clean. When police reviewed the video later, the frame was missing. Not corrupted. Not glitched. Missing, replaced with a segment from an earlier day. Grayson swore he didn't edit it. And the system showed no manual deletion. But that wasn't the worst part. Later that night, he heard tapping on his bedroom window. Not the glass, the exterior wall, inches from where his head rested on his pillow. Slow. Rhythmic. 3 taps, then silence. The same pattern reported in dozens of cases. He called out for his parents. But the tapping stopped before they came in, replaced by the faintest scrape, like fingernails dragging across siding. When daylight came, his father checked the outside of the house. Nothing. No marks. No prints. No sign anyone or anything had been outside at all. As we continue gathering reports, a strange realization settles in. The closer we get to the core of these sightings, the more the physical world seems to erase them. Not enough to dismiss the events, just enough to make them impossible to prove. In Maine, a woman described a girl knocking on her door at midnight, head down, hair covering her eyes. When she asked if she was hurt, the girl lifted her face, revealing pitch-black eyes with no whites visible. The woman slammed the door and immediately called 911. But when officers arrived, the girl was gone. Her porch light camera? It didn't record a single second of the encounter, even though the system showed it was active the entire time. In Oklahoma, a father described seeing a child crawling toward his house across the backyard at dawn. When he ran outside to confront it, the child slipped behind a shed. But when he turned the corner, nothing was there. The grass was undisturbed, the dew unbroken, no path of movement at all. All that remained was the sense that he wasn't alone, as if someone hid just out of view, holding their breath. Back in Arkansas, a far more disturbing pattern emerges. Over a span of just 2 nights, 3 families along the same back road reported children knocking on doors. One family said the child kept repeating the same sentence, "We need to come inside." Another said the child spoke in a voice that sounded practiced, as if each word was pulled from memory rather than spoken naturally. The third family didn't answer the door at all, but their camera recorded something else entirely. The child walked up to the door, paused, leaned forward, and pressed its ear against the wood, listening. Then, as if sensing the camera, the child slowly turned its head, looking directly into the lens. But the eyes didn't reflect light like normal eyes. They absorbed it. The family moved out a week later, refusing to stay after what happened next. Their door was found open at sunrise, unlocked from the inside. In every case, these children never break in. They don't hide. They don't run. They wait. The more we study the reports, the clearer it becomes that their interest isn't random. They're drawn to vulnerable places, homes with poor lighting, rural properties, isolated residences. But they also appear in suburbs, apartment complexes, even busy neighborhoods. It's not the location that matters. It's the moment. The quiet second when the world goes still. The pause between footsteps. The breath before someone checks the door. One investigator describes it perfectly. They arrive when you're alone. Not physically, emotionally. They show up in the moment you hesitate. The moment you second-guess yourself. They knock when you're vulnerable. But then a new case reaches us. One so recent it barely made it into local news. A single mother in Colorado recorded a child standing at her apartment door at 2:52 a.m. The child didn't knock, didn't speak, just stood facing the door, motionless, for nearly 7 minutes. When she played the sound back later, there was something she hadn't noticed in the moment. Breathing. Not loud. Not fast. But close. As if the child stood inches from the door, inhaling slowly over and over again, listening to her breathe on the other side. She called the building manager the next morning. But by then, the footage had changed. The child's figure was gone, replaced by an empty hallway. The breathing remained. By the time investigators arrived, the entire system reset itself, erasing every clip from that night. And the final detail, the one that shakes even seasoned researchers, comes from a sheriff's deputy in rural Kentucky. He says he responded to a call about a child wandering the woods. By the time he arrived, the child was standing at the edge of the tree line, staring at him. He called out. The child didn't react. But his body camera recorded something different from what he saw. The child wasn't standing. It was crouched. Hands pressed into the dirt. Head hanging low. Waiting. As the deputy stepped closer, the child rose to stand, not fluidly, but in a slow, unnatural unfolding of limbs, like something remembering how to hold a human shape. The deputy stepped back, reached for his radio, and the feed cut to static. When it returned, the clearing was empty. The child was gone. And the last frame of the recording shows the deputy alone, staring into the trees, while in the far left corner of the screen, a pale face reflects in the darkness. Eyes black. Expression blank. Watching him. Waiting. By the time we reach the final stretch of this investigation, the pattern is no longer a coincidence, and it's no longer something we can explain with misidentified animals or camera glitches. What we're seeing is coordinated, predictable, almost rehearsed. Every witness describes the same behaviors: the stillness, the waiting, the knocking, the monotone voices, the impossibly dark eyes. But as we dig deeper, we discover something far worse. These encounters don't end when the camera stops. They don't end when the child walks away. They don't end when the witness moves, erases footage, or shuts off the app. They end when the child decides they end. And for one family, that moment came too late. The case begins with a man named Corey in rural Utah. His home sits at the edge of a wide, open field with only a single dirt road leading up to it. On the night of his encounter, he was awake at 3 a.m., unable to sleep, pacing between the kitchen and living room. When his Ring app pinged, he expected a stray dog or maybe a car turning around on the road. It wasn't either. The video showed a child standing in the field, far from the door, too far for the motion detection to have triggered. Pale skin. Clothes too thin for the cold. Face angled down. Completely motionless. When Corey zoomed in, the image blurred, as if the camera refused to focus. He watched for nearly 2 minutes before deciding to investigate. He stepped outside, flashlight in hand, shouting into the darkness. The child didn't move. But the moment he stepped off the porch, the Ring camera froze. Not glitched. Froze. The entire system locked on a single frame. The child, still staring at the ground. Seconds later, Corey heard breathing. Not in front of him. Behind him. He turned, but no one was there. The air was still. No wind, no animals, nothing. When he checked the camera again, the image had changed. Now the child was gone. The field was empty. Only the frozen timestamp remained. Corey didn't sleep that night. But the true horror began the next day. Every time he walked past a window, he felt watched. Not constantly, but in flashes. A shadow at the corner of his eye, a pale shape near the barn, the sense of something crouched behind the fence. His dog refused to go outside, barking at nothing, growling at the air. Then, on the third day, the knocking started. Not on the front door. Not even on the walls. On the windows. Each time he approached, the knocking stopped. And every time, his Ring app lit up with notifications. But when he checked the footage, there was nothing. The camera's field of view was intact, the timestamp correct, the lighting perfect. No child. No shadow. No movement. Just the faint reflection of Corey's own face staring back at him. But that wasn't what scared him. It was what he noticed behind himself in one of the clips. A second reflection. Small. Pale. Standing behind him in the room. The moment he turned around, the room was empty. Meanwhile, our investigation reveals that this isn't new. Similar cases date back decades, long before modern cameras. Old newspaper archives tell stories of children with dark eyes wandering rural areas, asking for shelter. Victorian-era diaries mention visitors who appeared at cabins but never left footprints. Ranchers in the 1800s described quiet ones who came to their doors at dusk, speaking in eerie monotone voices. But the most disturbing pattern comes from families who let the children inside. Those houses end up for sale soon after. Furniture left behind. Garage full. Clothes still in closets. Families simply vanish. No records. No forwarding address. No explanation. Just an empty house with an unlocked door. Our final case takes place in Oregon, where a mother and her teenage son reported a child knocking on their door for 15 straight minutes. They never opened it, but the Ring camera recorded everything. The child stood with their face down, repeating the same line over and over. "We need to come inside. Please let us in." The voice didn't sound like a child. It sounded practiced, as though mimicking what a child should sound like. At the 10-minute mark, the child tilted its head upward, and the mother screamed. The eyes were completely black, reflecting nothing, absorbing everything. The child stopped speaking. Then it smiled. Slow. Wrong. And walked away. Police investigated, but found nothing. No footprints. No fingerprints. No sign anyone had approached the property at all. But a week later, the family reported seeing shadows in their hallway at night. Their dog refused to enter the living room. The mother said she felt something watching her sleep from the corner of the room. The final piece of footage she sent us shows her son sitting in the kitchen at 2 a.m., staring at the back door. When she asked what he was doing, he whispered, "They're waiting for you." The video ends there. No sound. No movement. Just static. As our investigation closes, we're left with a truth more terrifying than confirmed monsters or proven folklore. If these children are real, they don't want to break in. They want to be invited. And every witness who hesitates, even for a second, becomes the next focus of their attention. Whether you open the door or not doesn't matter. What matters is that you looked. What matters is that you listened. And now, you've heard their stories too. If you think this was disturbing, you have no idea what's coming next. Subscribe before they knock on your door.